Man, that was fun rolling armor while wearing a scabbard. I seriously didn't think you can do this, and I thought I was gonna break a scabbard. Any case, hey guys, Ken here from the Wanfan's Armory. Today we're going to be looking at how do you wear a medieval scabbard. There are many ways that you can actually wear a scabbard, and my favorite of many different methods. I mean, there are like many different methods of how you can wear scabbards. But the one by Dark Sword Armoury over at Quebec, this one of course being the Sword of Alexandria. It is a thick, chunky boy. So, many of their scabbard is actually done in a way that is what I call the tail and loop system. And the good thing is that these actually make it so then it sits really comfortably at your true waist, and there is actually a quick release feature in this weapon. And I find that this specific loop and tail method, it's actually more battlefield friendly than the other method that I'm talking about. Before I start wearing different scabbards, I have to kind of explain what you really need. Well, ultimately, of course, you need a sword and you need a scabbard of some sort. But the most important part about wearing a scabbard is actually your belt fitting. How is it actually suspended on the human body? And of course, most of the time, people, well, have it on some sort of belt structure. And sometimes you can actually put it into your armor as if it was suspended in somehow with your metal plate and stuff like that, and that gets really exciting. But we're not going to talk about armor here, so let's just go into civilian life. The first method of wearing your scabbard is actually having two additional leather tab or kind of belt and buckle that's suspended on your scabbard itself, and it's going to be held up with, well, pretty much these leather buckle or mini, well, belts, and then they can be sliding up and down as you please, and they make it a lot more versatile. It's a very common system, but the thing is, I don't like how they always slide around, even when you have additional riser. It's a good system, but not my favorite, especially when you move, it kind of jingle and jangle and kind of move around everywhere, and it does get a little tricky. But the benefit of the system is that if you ever need to ditch your sword, you can unstrap your main belt and off you go. So this is actually quite nice. Most beautiful way of wearing a scabbard, and historically we see this as being the most common way of wearing one, just because everyone has a belt. But the thing is that putting this on takes the longest. It is just, you have to kind of hold on to your scabbard, you have to do the belt yourself, and it's all finicky. And the thing is, if you're holding one scabbard, you're holding a purse, you kind of get this in, it is a nightmare. And worse is that if you ever want to try to take it off, everything just kind of falls apart, and it gets a little bit more tricky because you have to take away one, you have to take away the other, and maybe you have to grab your purse, and then your sword scabbard will come out. So this is once again the most beautiful way of doing it, but I find that is the most trickiest way. And then there is the method that Dark Sword Armoury does it, which is a beautiful early medieval kind of century. It is once again the tail and loop system where everything is integrated into one. And if you still want to add a purse or a dagger or whatever, you can still use the additional belt and fasten onto it. It's kind of like the utility version of everything else. Now, in this one, there's no hardware, it's just all leather, so it makes things extremely comfortable. Okay, the two little tail feed that right through, and the good thing about the whole belt system is that it's all leather. So if originally when it comes in it's a little bit too tight because they don't cut enough of these tail for you, take an X-Acto knife, score it in, and it's gonna be quite comfortably and easily done. And of course, get that nicely fastened in. I absolutely love how when you're doing this method, you're actually kind of holding the sword with you underneath your arm, so nothing is really jangling, and it's actually quite nice. And after you feed that through, you can actually let go. This thing ain't gonna go anywhere. It's already quite secure. The good thing about it is that now you can kind of take your time, mill a bow, and adjust however you need. Oh, let me take a purse and all that. It's very well secure. But it makes the next part even more easier. Nice and tight, it gives you time for the second part. You're gonna make a big loop with one tail, the second one go wrapping around, get that nice and secure, and so you take that and feed it right through before you get everything nice and tight. There we go, nice and tight. See? And so now you have a little loop right here with the two tails dangling. And of course, if they get in your way, you can always throw it over and just kind of get that nice and tucked away. So then your enemy can just grab onto your belt and start pulling away. And, well, here's the thing. If it does, this is where it gets interesting, because now the short little tail, you can yank it and your belt would come right loose. So in the heat of battle, if you ever need to grab your scabbard to whack onto your enemy, it's extremely quick. If you think that your belt is looking a little bit plain Jane, well, you can always take any part of the thick belt and add cute little buttons and all whatnot, and you can easily decorate that out. The other benefit why I think this belt and loose system is a lot more battlefield friendly, well, of course, the easy quick release is super useful. But the second part is that when you have a buckle, what's going to happen is that you're eventually going to find that one perfect sweet spot where your belt and buckle is going to fit. Now, what happens is that when you have this, there's quite a lot of strain happening on this exact right point. So then, the more you use it, especially when it gets rain on, mud and cake and whatnot, that's gonna break really easily. So it means that you just need to have a little bit more word placement needed. Whereas, if you have the tail and loop system, no matter where you feed it through, people, well, they kind of change in size. So maybe sometimes you are feeding this one exact location, and maybe the week after you're actually a little bit slimmer, and then when you grow in weight, it's a little bit longer. So it makes it a lot more durable because you're using more part of your leather. Now, given that when you're wearing armor, both options will allow you to have a lot of adjustment points, but I find this system that the Dark Sword Armoury developed, it's a lot more acceptance to pretty much, well, everything that you need to do. Another benefit about this loop and belt system is that it sits a lot more closer to your true waist, especially when you're running around in your duel, in the battlefield, and you're trying to just do things. And let's not forget that when you're in the battlefield, you're most likely gonna have very hindered vision. Your visor's in the way, things are in your view of vision, you're not really gonna see your sword that much. So having things nice and tucked close to your body is extremely important, especially when you're close in a melee fight. So then when I actually wear my scabbard, I try to keep it to my waist level as much as I can, so that as soon as I reach down, I can grab whatever I need. And of course, in this belt and loop system, you can have it as tight as you like, and this sits perfectly at your true waist, making it so then your battlefield effectiveness is a lot more better than when things are just dabbling and jangling and diddling around. Going back to the first two systems, that this system rely on things hanging down. So meaning that it kind of flops around. And of course, the most beautiful civilian way is that, well, they're not really meant for battlefield use and they will flop around. Well, that's kind of why it's so beautiful and sexy. It does get really annoying, to be honest. Now, aside from wearing and all that, we have to think about storage. There's two ways of I store my scabbard, and of course keeping all the tails and stuff like that nice and wrapped up so then they don't get all tangled and stuff like that. I like this tail and loop system is because there's no hardware, and so there's less things in the way, and I can wrap everything up quite nicely in one bundle package. But of course, you can do it on your other civilian set as well, but I find that there's a lot more stuff going on there. And if you go back to the first version, the whole thing is just gonna dangle along. It does get pretty annoying, so not the best thing. So anyway, storage wise, this is still the best way of doing it. Next, what if you're hanging your sword on a plaque? Well, a couple things is that if you just hang your sword normally on your plaque, your scabbard may actually fall out and you have a sharp blade hanging out. With the belt and loop system, what you can do is that you can actually take one of the tail end of the loop, the big one that your tail goes in, feed that over into one of your hangers. And so now, when you hang your sword up, your scabbard is not going to drop and stay nice and secure. There you have it. So I hope that you learn a bit of a thing with this video, either with how do you actually wear a Dark Sword Armoury scabbard set, or perhaps you actually think about doing your own little belt system. Well, there's quite a different ways of wearing your scabbard. It really comes down to why are you wearing the sword in the first place? Are you wearing it for high efficiency, nice and tucked together on a battlefield setting? Or you just kind of want to look beautiful and gallant as if you're just going shopping around town? And either one of these methods is historically done, and of course some you see more in some region and some you see more in certain settings. And there's no right and wrong. As long as you're comfortable wearing your sword, who cares? Like, as long as you're not wearing an overly long sword, because that is illegal and you can get fined for that. But you cannot get fined for how you wear your scabbard. Now, here's a couple more videos about me running about and mucking around in my armor and wearing the scabbard. Now, a couple things. You're gonna see that in this video, wearing an arming sword is a lot easier when it comes down to rolling, whereas wearing a long sword, like the Sword of Alexandria, it takes a bit of practice. So now you see why wearing a longer sword close to your true waist is a lot more beneficial when you're trying to muck around on the battlefield. You have more sword, bringing that closer to your body, so then you have less things sticking out from you. Once again, it's Ken here from the One Punch Armory, and I'll be doing a lot more video with the Sword of Alexandria and a lot more Dark Sword Armoury stuff coming my way. I've discovered that they actually have a lot more things than bits and bobs and fittings and whatnot, that as a sword slipper myself, which is someone who buys a bunch of parts and put it together, that they're offering, and I am just so excited about it. And I will have more Dark Sword Armoury related video coming in real soon. But of course, if you have any question about wearing your scabbard or general things about Dark Sword Armoury that is local in Canada, yeah, put a comment down below. And of course, if you like my video, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me that you guys are really enjoying this video, and I am so glad that things I'm doing on my spare time, it's really helping you guys out, and of course helping the human community and of course fan enthusiasts of sword community out. Thank you again for watching this video, and until next time, see ya!